There's nothing like it.
We're like eagles on the open highway. Hey, welcome to the channel. We travel America on Harley-Davidsons, and we want to share it with you, so subscribe.
Heck yeah, we've been traveling together for over 10 years. Started capturing our travels 2 years ago. And in 2021, we rode 50,000 miles together. We're in the West Coast, we're in the middle of the States. We were in the East Coast, the furthest, most northeastern point in the U.S.
We're going to pick 3.
I got to tell you, it's hard to choose, but we'll get 3 of them down.
So roll the clips.
Hey, so I hope you enjoyed those clips. We're going to start with Moab in no particular order, but this is the one we're going to start with.
Well, one great thing about all this stuff is, you know, we talk about us being time travelers. We get on our motorcycles, our time machines, we go back in time. But whether you're in a historic town and there's these historic buildings with history and things like that, but when you get into somewhere like Moab, you're going back into this geology, and it's amazing.
So day one, we start off in LA, our home base, and we make our way to St. George. Do you know what I love about our followers?
What's that?
We get a message from Ryan Shaw, and he wants to meet up with us. Wasn't that cool?
That was definitely great. And didn't he, the next day, his dad come along as well?
Sure did.
The weather changed so much, and the great thing for me was they hadn't ridden through the canyon that we went through.
Yeah, we went up through Kolob, then up the I-70, and it was rain, snow, sleet, and they were having a blast.
So it was great. We run through all this different weather situation. We ended up in Green River, and where did we eat?
Ray's Tavern. And the cool thing was they hadn't really gone up the I-70 on their bikes before, so we showed them something completely different.
And they were impressed.
They loved it.
With the filming and everything. It was awesome. So how was lunch?
Lunch was great.
I mean, that restaurant was awesome.
I loved it.
Very welcoming. The food was good. And then we were getting ready to head where?
Then we're going to make our way into Moab. So after we leave Ray's Tavern, you know, the weather starts breaking. I couldn't believe it was from snow, and now we don't even need our jackets, really.
Right.
It was cool. We hit the 191 into Moab.
White puffy clouds were everywhere.
And then where?
So we hooked a right on the 279. I'm blown away. There's this river, these towering red rocks, and back in time, I mean, there's pictographs, and it's just amazing. What a great way to end that day. So then we head back to the Apache Motel, and that was great because I wasn't expecting that.
Well, we looked it up, and by the way, John Wayne stayed there.
Yes.
And many other actors, so that was pretty cool. And it was funny because the guys came with us, and they actually booked rooms there as well. We went over to the brewery, had some beers and a little bit of food, and that's where the story started to become real for us, as they were talking about how we were filming and how much time and energy it takes. It was a great conversation, good to have them.
Yeah.
But guess what? The real excitement begins on day 3.
So day 3 was awesome. It started with a great breakfast, and who did we meet?
Justin, this is Josh's buddy from college. He works with NavTech, and he's going to take us on this amazing exploration into the Canyonlands.
I mean, it's so awesome when you start rolling on these dirt roads and you start climbing into the depths of these canyons. One of my favorite parts was Thelma and Louise Point. That was huge.
Yeah, that was pretty cool. Then we see the gooseneck there. We've seen those around, you know, southern Utah, Arizona. Pretty cool. The Horseshoe Bend there. We went up to Schaefer Trail. We went to Pucker Pass. I mean, we were all over the place. So we were able to see some great things. And you know what's really crazy? I actually rode motorcycles in the Canyonlands, and I forgot how beautiful she was.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, the different structures, the riverbeds. Up on Schaefer Trail, where we looked back down and you could see all the Jeeps coming up. Wasn't that just amazing?
Well, when you travel and you travel on motorcycles, you end up in places that you never thought you'd be. And then when you're there, it's like, wow.
Well, the motorcycle got us there, but we did something different. We jumped in a 4x4 and we rode around the Canyonlands. That's something that we haven't done before together.
And that is because of the motorcycle.
That's right.
So what was after the 4x4 tour?
So again, we get a message from one of our followers. They tell us, go do the LaSalle Mountain Loop. And we're like, I mean, if the day couldn't have been any fuller, we'd just been in the Canyonlands and we're going to go for another hour and a half, 2-hour ride up to the loop.
Right, that was great. It's like from one world to another.
Yeah, you're in the desert floor. All of a sudden you start climbing. There's a little bit of color change, elevation change.
Pine trees.
And then we run into snow.
Awesome.
Crazy. We got up to about 12,000 feet on the top of that mountain.
Right, right. So after the loop, we headed over to Susie's Branding Iron. And they had some great food there, so we got to sit down, have some drinks, and fill our bellies.
Yeah, I mean, Josh had a steak, you had a steak, and I had a steak, and it was great. That was the end of day 3. So now we begin day 4, and what do we see but Arches National Park?
And what a sight that was to see, man.
Sure
That was great. So we headed into Arches, and Arches to me was a mind blow because you go up this steep hill, you're way up on a plateau, and there's arches sticking out, so it's different. It's not canyons, it's monuments.
Yeah, to me it was almost like prehistoric.
Yeah.
You know, you come in, there's nothing around. It's pretty barren, but you see these massive arches throughout, and we just saw the very front of that as you get into the park. As you continue deeper, it even gets bigger and better. Yes.
Wow, the thing that the rain and wind carving out a sculpture.
Well, we learned
Amazing.
about that with Justin.
Yeah.
It starts something like this big, and it works its way into an arch in millions and millions and millions of years.
So we didn't make our way through the whole park, but what did we see?
We went to the north window, we went to the south window, and the turret. Man, they were massive. And again, we haven't even seen the largest arches.
Right.
But these were massive.
It's amazing. So worth it. I mean, to me, it seems like Moab is the land of whatever you want to do, you can, whether it's Jeeps, kayaks, mountain bike, hang glide, whatever. It's possible.
Yeah, I mean, I grew up in Utah, and we spent a fair amount of time down in southern Utah, and we've taken a lot of trips there ourselves, and there's just nothing. It's an endless amount of freedom that you can have. It's one of the mountain biking meccas of the world. You said the kayaking, this the start of the Colorado River.
Right.
Or the Colorado runs through it. It's just an amazing place in southern Utah. If you can make it to Moab, you got to get there. Spring and fall are probably the best times because you don't have all the heat. Winter can be a challenge occasionally. Summer's just a tough chance through there because it can be in the high hundreds. So hey, what's next? Not in any particular order, but number 2 spot right now is Niagara Falls.
That's great. But let's back it up and show them how we started the day.
Yeah, we started out in Sandusky, Ohio, which is where your mother was born.
Yeah, and it was really great to see that and kind of feel like I went back and now I know where my mother and father kind of hung out in their young age.
Well, it's funny because one of the things that sticks out, not only just the architecture, but the little restaurant that we had breakfast at that didn't have a plate over $4 or $5. I think we spent $25 for 5 people on breakfast.
And it was piled with food.
It was wonderful.
Yeah. So we hopped on the highway. We went from the 2 to the 90. Where did we end up?
The Canadian border.
Can you imagine that?
Josh had it on the nav, and we went down in, and we had to do a little bit of a U-turn, but we were kind of lost in the town there, and so we stopped at the visitor center, and Sherry, I believe was her name, she was coming out off of work, and she took me back into the visitor center, showed me where to go. She recommended the DoubleTree. I mean, everywhere we go, people are just so kind.
On every trip.
Every
you meet
trip.
wonderful people. But Niagara, you see it, and it's mind-blowing, jaw-dropping, just mist in this hugeness. It's a great thing.
I couldn't believe it.
Yeah.
And I didn't really understand Niagara Falls either. I thought it was one fall.
Right, me too.
And that's maybe poor education on my part, but there are actually 3 falls there.
Right. So I have a comparison. You go to the rim of the Grand Canyon, and it's silence, and it's this vast cavity. You go to the side of the Niagara Falls, and it's thundering energy. You're still looking into this vast area, but it's steam and just...
You're kind of scaring me.
It was amazing.
Well, it was funny because I was trailing you guys down in there, and Laura and Teresa were just, you could hear them laughing and screaming. Like, it was just euphoric. And I saw some people smiling because they knew what they were looking at and about to see.
Yeah, and there's tours going on. You see a boat, the Maiden of the Mist.
Yeah.
There's action everywhere on both sides, actually. You can see Canada and the U.S.
Well, we thought there were some workers, but it was actually a tour.
Right.
And they were standing on the Canadian side down on that platform getting sprayed like no tomorrow.
Right.
So it's like every place we stop, we meet one of our followers. When we rolled into the park, there was a Road King sitting there.
Right.
Josh put a coin on his bike, or her bike. We didn't know at that point.
Right.
But as we walked back to see the other two falls, there's a veteran of our lovely country that caught up with us, wanted to shake our hand. We took some pictures with him. That's so awesome. We see this all the time. He told us that was his solace place. He needs to come clear his mind occasionally. And you can understand how that happens when you're by these falls. It's amazing.
Right. It was great to meet him.
So we end up, at the Doubletree. You know, we did 270 miles and it took us 12 hours. But we end up at the Doubletree by the recommendation of Sherry, and we had the most bomb meal. It was crazy.
Steaks and potatoes and greens and drinks.
And I think I was feeling pretty good. But yeah, I couldn't wait to go back and see it at night.
Oh, that was something I'm so glad we did.
Yeah.
Because you saw the lights across. I wondered what they were, and then all of a sudden this wonderful light show, another mind-blowing.
I mean, they haven't been doing it that long, but it's something that if you're there, don't miss it.
If you're at Niagara during the day, you better figure out a reason to stay there.
Yeah.
So you can see the light show. So we're walking down the stairs, and we're seeing glow on the horizon. And the closer you get, there's this. Was it red, white, blue, orange?
All different colors.
Every color of the rainbow.
Yeah, what was interesting to me is the color of the water during the daytime. It was so like crystal clear and green with this white cascading falls, and then you're eating the mist coming off of it.
Right.
Now you're there at night, and it's purple, it's yellow, it's white, it's blue, it's red. I mean, it was a sight to see. And you're still eating the mist. Yeah,
you have to stand there and watch because you're in awe with this. It's just gigantic.
And at the same time, while you were talking earlier about how thundering it is, there was some tranquility about it as well. It was very peaceful.
Yeah, absolutely. So talk about far out places. This next one, the number one on our list, tell us.
I'm not going to tell you. You're going to have to watch. And I got to tell you, it's going to be worth the watch.
Oh, yeah.
So number one on the list, one of the most incredible places we saw all year long.
Quoddy Head State Park.
Sure was.
What a thing. So the morning starts in Portland, Maine. We always need breakfast. Where did we eat?
Well, hey, we just stumbled on this Bayside American Cafe, and if you are in Portland, Maine, you got to go try this. The food there was incredible.
Homemade.
And then where did we go next?
So after breakfast, we hopped on the 295, then the 3, and we ended up in Belfast.
That's right. So that ride in was incredible. I loved getting into the town of Belfast, those old buildings, red brick everywhere. I mean, we found this great restaurant called Dockside Family Restaurant. And it was the first time on the trip, being on the East Coast, that these guys actually got to try lobster. I don't eat fish, so I was excited for them to try their first lobster roll.
Lunch was fantastic. Great food. We met great people. The town of Belfast, really awesome. And then we head out from there.
Yeah, I mean, the ride towards Lubeck from there was incredible. I mean, the colors, we were probably a week or two early, but we were still seeing some great colors. And then out of nowhere, the Penobscot Bridge shows up, and that thing was spanning and has all these cables and wires. And actually, we got a number of comments talking about how historic that area of Maine is.
Well, one of the great things is you see landscape and trees and rock structures, but then you see these structures that are man-made, And they're spectacular as well.
Well, I think we even commented as we were getting closer into town. I mean, you look at these old homes, they are dated back in the 1700s.
Yeah.
So pretty gnarly.
Yes.
So as we continued on, we hit some pretty crazy roads. We ran into this dirt section. I think it was construction, but it was at least a mile or two long. And we were riding that thing like dune buggy bikers, It was really great. But the views were still just as spectacular. The colors never got old. And the beautiful sky. The night was starting to set in a little bit. It was getting a little bit darker. But hey, we're headed towards that lighthouse, and nothing's going to stop us.
No, that was the goal. Get to the lighthouse. We pull into the lighthouse.
Yeah.
We make it there. It's like so unbelievable. The sky was like a gray pink. And I'm standing there going, we're looking at Nova Scotia. And then I thought, the Titanic, when it sank, they took the people that perished to Nova Scotia. And there's a cemetery there with people from the Titanic.
Well, it was pretty reverent there, because we got there was no one in the park. We saw a porcupine. That
Yes,
was
we
cool.
did.
But I was just blown away at the beauty. And then when Josh took Gilbert up and went around the lighthouse, and then he panned back out towards Nova Scotia, just the view of that was insane. It was amazing. And then when we got back home and he edited it out, wow, that's all I can say.
And that's why for this round, this is the #1 stop right there.
Sure was. And we'd been getting a little grief not being able to ride out on the East Coast, and people were challenging us, and guess what?
We did it.
We're at the furthest northeastern point in the USA.
Yes.
So it was interesting. We didn't really have any goals or plans that were that detailed, and every day that we rode on the East Coast was incredible. The reason this is our #1 is we could not believe the scenery, the feeling that we had with the wives there. We also had a couple guests, Zach and Mary. Josh was just so happy with the drone shots because he was just like, wow, look at this view. And just,
it was
this
incredible.
was our #1 spot,
Yeah, and that's I think why we picked it, because everyone was so excited about it. Well, I got to say, I had a really good time going through these 3 videos.
Well, we did a lot of traveling last year, and as we were looking back at the drops, I mean, man, it was hard to choose, but I have to tell you, these 3 just kept resonating with us, and 2 of the 3 are actually East Coast.
Right.
Pretty crazy there.
It's great. But I would say this, we're going to do it again, and with that, subscribe to our YouTube channel and tell your friends to do the same.
Yeah, give us a comment on this one in particular, because we'd like to know your thoughts. And a little different for us this go around, but we'd love to hear your feedback. Give us a thumbs up, mash that bell, and we will see you down the road.